But I'm seeing on Zoom it's zero note about.
I soon change it.
Oh, okay.
No, I turned that. I turned it.
It on.
This
There,
is
no?
what
Yeah,
should
yeah.
Yeah, press
No,
it.
the front, the master on, you know. The master on.
Check. And then you
Oh, just so we can go live.
No, we're supposed to sit in thing with the music. Is it?
Yes,
It's
supposed to
live?
hear, yeah, they're supposed to hear music there.
I'm trying to find it. Yeah, I'm seeing. So, right. So it switches between the blue and the other screen.
Okay.
So this is what you're seeing now. No. So just at 10 o'clock, then I'll please. So that's it. Yeah. Oh, so I can hear from this page and monitor. Oh. You're talking on the line.
Mine's out.
In the room.
Microphone's out.
Still hearing you?
It's supposed to go in.
It's delayed by a minute because I hear myself talking now. Alright. Okay. So we should hear the music, which
Yeah.
it's not that.
You're supposed to hear music.
Oh, this is 60 seconds then. Nothing at all. I think the night just stopped. It's short. Morning. So I'm going to talk to them. So wait.
Oh, nice light, girl.
levels from the impact of COVID-19, 1 year before the projected recovery date of fiscal year 2023-24.
The outturn for January to March 2023 largely reflected the impact of one, increased external demand, especially for Jamaica's tourism product. This was facilitated by the continued recovery in the economies of Jamaica's main trading partners and was reflected in the positive performances for the transport, hotels and restaurants, and other services industries. Two, increased domestic demand associated with the strength of the recovery, particularly in the hotels and restaurants and transport, storage, and communication industries. And three, the resumption of operations at the Jamalco Alumina plant during the July to September 2022 quarter, following its closure in August of 2021. Further growth in the economy was tempered by a contraction in the construction industry due to a slowdown in works on major infrastructure projects, which are close to completion, and the negative effect of drought conditions on the agriculture, forestry and fishing, and the electricity and water supply industries. Real sector developments. Developments in the goods producing industry. Output of the goods producing industry fell by an estimated 0.7% due to contractions in all industries with the exception of mining and manufacturing. This performance largely reflected the impact of drought conditions and a slowdown in some capital projects. Agriculture. Output of the agriculture, forestry and fishing industry declined by an estimated 7.6%. The performance of the industry reflected the impact of drought conditions. This resulted in a decline in productivity as reflected in lower output per hectare, as well as a delay in planting of crops, which contributed to a decline in hectares reaped for domestic crops. All parishes recorded a contraction in hectares reaped, with the exception of Portland and Clarendon, which increased by 4.6% and 4.2% respectively, relative to the corresponding quarter of 2022. The other agricultural crops group was estimated to have contracted by 9.6%, reflecting lower production in all 9 crop groups as a result of a decline in hectares reaped and crop yields. The most significant declines were recorded for potatoes, down 23.3%, legumes, down 16%, and cereals, down 14.4%. Traditional export crops fell by an estimated 1.4%, reflecting lower output for bananas, down 3.9%, and cocoa, down 30.3%. Animal farming was estimated to have grown by 2.8%, mainly reflecting the increased production of broiler meat, up 1.9%, and eggs, up 7.4%. Increases were also recorded for post-harvest activities, pushed by a higher production of coffee. Mining and quarrying. Real value added for mining and quarrying grew by an estimated 95.9% due to higher output of alumina, which outweighed a contraction in crude bauxite. Alumina production grew by 197.1% due to the resumption of production at the Jamalco Alumina plant, which was closed during the corresponding quarter of 2022. This resulted in an increase in the alumina capacity utilization rate by 22.4 percentage points to 33.7% compared with the corresponding quarter of 2022. Crude bauxite production declined by 33.2% due to a fall-off in demand. The average bauxite capacity utilization rate fell by 16.1 percentage points to 32.4%. Manufacturing. Real value added for the manufacturing industry was estimated to have grown by 0.7% due to improved performance in the food, beverages, and tobacco sub-industry, which outweighed an estimated contraction in the other manufacturing sub-industry. Higher output was recorded for the food processing component, largely due to poultry meat, up 2.2%, dairy products, up 39.9%, condensed milk up 287.9%, cornmeal up 6.8%, rum and alcohol up 11.9%, edible oils up 41.6%, and edible fats up 42.3%. In the other manufacturing category, lower output stemmed from a decline in production of petroleum products, led by fuel oil down 19.1%, which outweighed increased output of gasoline up 8.1% and automotive diesel oil up 7.9%. Non-metallic minerals also contracted due to a fall-off in the production of cement by 19.9% and clinker by 45.4%. Construction. Real value added for construction fell by 4%, reflecting downturns in both the other construction and building construction components. The performance of the building construction component was constrained by a 32.6% contraction in housing starts by the NHT and a 9.1% contraction in the real sales of construction inputs. The decrease in the other construction component was due to lower capital expenditure on civil engineering activities, reflecting the net effect of a 67.2% contraction in disbursements by the National Works Agency, NWA, to $2.2 billion. Disbursement facilitated works on the Yallahs to Harborview leg of the Southern Coastal Highway Improvement Project, SCHIP, and a 36.9% increase in disbursements by the Jamaica Public Service Company to $1.2 billion. Developments in the services industry. The services industry was estimated to have grown by 3.8%, reflecting growth in all industries, led by those associated with travel and tourism. The improved performance resulted largely from increased external demand as economies of our main trading partners continued to strengthen. Electricity and water supply. The electricity and water supply industry recorded growth of 0.7% in real value added, reflecting an increase in electricity consumption, which outweighed a decline in water consumption. Electricity consumption increased by 1.2%, reflecting higher consumption for 3 of 6 categories, namely general service, that small businesses using less than 25 kilovolt ampere kVA was up 3.7%. Power service, that's large businesses using more than 25 kVA but less than 500 kVA, was up 3.5%. And largest power, that's single locations that have minimum peak demand of 2,000 kVA, was up 3.7%. These increases were sufficient to outweigh declines recorded for large power, that's businesses using more than 500 kVA, was down 1.4%, and residential was down 0.9%, and street lighting plus traffic signals was down 4.1%. When disaggregated by parish, 10 parishes recorded higher consumption. The largest increases were recorded for Clarendon, up 5.9%, Westmoreland, also up 5.9%, and Trelawney, up 5.4%. These increases were largely attributed to an increase in tourism-related activities in Westmoreland and Trelawney, while the resumption of production at the Jamalco Alumina plant drove the increase for Clarendon. The largest declines were recorded for Hanover, down 5%, Kingston and St. Andrew down 2.9%, and Manchester down 0.9%. Water consumption contracted by 1.3% due to lower consumption in both the Western Division, down 1.5%, and the Eastern Division, down 1.1%. Transport, storage, and communication. Real value added for transport, storage, and communication grew by 4.3% due to estimated increases in both the transport and storage and communication components. Growth in the transport and storage component reflected the combined effect of 1, growth in the air transport component due to increased passenger movements, up 46.5%, driven by both arrivals, up 46.4%, and departures, up 46.1%. This was associated with a continued strengthening of the tourism and travel sectors. And two, an expansion in the maritime transport subcomponent, reflecting cargo volume up 8%, due to increases in cargo handled at both the Port of Kingston up 6.9% and outports up 9.1%. Wholesale and retail trade, repair and installation of machinery, WR trim. Real value added for the WR trim industry was estimated to have increased by 0.5%, reflecting the impact of higher demand emanating from the continued strengthening in demand, for example, from the hotels and restaurants industry, increase in the related manufacturing industry output, and increases in both the consumer confidence index up 2.5% and the business confidence index up 4.5%. There was a 1.2% increase in total real gross sales. Higher sales were recorded for 5 of the 8 categories, including motor vehicles, auto repairs and accessories, up 8.9%, retail sales of goods and services in specialized and non-specialized stores, up 4.3%, retail sale of pharmaceuticals, medical goods and cosmetics, up 3.5%, and minerals, fuels, lubricants and petroleum products, up 2.1%. Finance and insurance services. Real value added for the finance and insurance services industry was estimated to have grown by 1%. This performance was influenced by increased profitability at deposit-taking institutions associated with a higher level of economic activities and an increase in net interest income and fees and commission income earned by deposit-taking institutions. Hotels and restaurants. Real value added for hotels and restaurants increased by an estimated 30.8%. The industry continues to benefit from increased travel in light of the continued growth in main source markets and effective marketing strategies. Preliminary data for January and February of 2023 revealed that stopover arrivals increased by 55.5% to 457,996 visitors, and crude passenger arrivals increased to 300,237 from 110 ship calls relative to 49,870 from 41 ship calls in the corresponding period of 2022. Total visitor expenditure increased to US $761.6 million relative to US $276 million in the corresponding period. Regarding the employment update, no labor force survey was undertaken by the Statistical Institute of Jamaica, Statin, for the months of October 2022 and January 2023 due to competing activities involving the national census currently being undertaken. An analysis of the April 2023 labor force survey will therefore be presented at our next economic briefing in August of this year. Looking at GDP performance for the full fiscal year 2022-23. For fiscal year 22-23, real GDP growth was initially projected to be within the range of 4% to 6%. Based on the preliminary outturn for January to March 2023, real value added for fiscal year 2022-23 is estimated to have grown by 4.3%, supported by improved performances in all industries, except one, mining and quarrying, which contracted by an estimated 2.3%, due mainly to the closure of the Jamalco alumina plant for 7 months of the fiscal year, and two, construction, which declined by 4.2%, due largely to a fall-off in civil engineering activities associated with the winding down of major road infrastructure projects. The heavier weighted services industry was estimated to have grown by 5%, and the goods producing industry by 1.8%. The industries which recorded the strongest growth during the fiscal year were hotels and restaurants, up 34.9%, other services up 10.4%, transport, storage, and communication up 5.4%, manufacturing up 5.3%, and agriculture up 4.8%. The Jamaican economy has now surpassed its pre-COVID-19 high, which was recorded in fiscal year 2018 to 2019, 1 year earlier than initially expected, as the initiatives implemented to stimulate businesses and consumers during the heights of the pandemic have reduced the economic scarring from the COVID-19 pandemic. Looking at the short-term economic outlook, that's April to June 2023 and the fiscal year 2023-24. For April to June 2023, growth prospects for the economy are generally positive. It is projected that the economy will grow within the range 2% to 3% relative to April to June of 2022, based on the continuation of the growth momentum in most industries. Specifically, growth during this period is expected to be driven by continued strengthening of the mining and quarrying industry due to the resumption of full operations at the Jamalco Alumina plant, increased domestic demand due to an estimated expansion in employment levels, and continued recovery in the global economy despite the geopolitical challenges, which augurs well for a strengthening of external demand for Jamaica's goods and services, particularly tourism. Data for the April to June 2023 quarter has indicated some positive movements which support this projection. Preliminary airport arrivals for April 2023 totaled 238,530 persons, an increase of 10.5% compared with April 2022. For the mining and quarrying industry, April 2023 data indicate that alumina production increased by 359.3% and crude bauxite production increased by 16.8%. Electricity consumption for April 2023 grew by 6.1% and water consumption grew by 1.6% relative to April 2022. The projection for fiscal year 2023-24 is for growth within the range of 1% to 3%. All industries are forecast to record growth, albeit at slower rates, as most would have fully recovered from the effects of COVID-19. In some instances, the economy has entered into this new growth phase stronger, more efficient, and competitive due to the pivoting that firms were forced to undertake to combat the fallout from the COVID-19 pandemic. These benefits arose from the continued utilization of the work-from-home modality within the private sector and reports of the realization of increased productivity from workers, new ventures and opportunities which have resulted in firms adding new products and services to their core functions, particularly in the areas of information technology and service delivery modalities, the retooling and addition of new capacities by major industry players during the downtime associated with COVID-19. For example, the addition of new hotel rooms has better equipped some firms to meet new and expanding demand. For fiscal year 2023 to 24, growth will be led by the performance of the mining and quarrying industry as the Jamalco refinery continues to ramp up to full capacity by the end of 2023. Relatively strong growth is also expected from the hotels and restaurants, other services, and transport, storage, and communication industries. There's always upside potential and downside risks to the forecast as we announce and report. The main downside risks to these projections, meaning that the outturn can be lower than we forecast. The main risks include: one, increased factory downtime associated with aged production plants, particularly in the mining and quarrying and manufacturing industries. Two, weather-related shocks, particularly related to the impact of a possible intensification of drought conditions on the agriculture, forestry and fishing, and electricity and water supply industries. Three, an intensification of geopolitical conflict, leading to a deterioration of supply-side conditions. And four, lower than anticipated external demand for Jamaican goods and services as a result of slower than expected growth in the economies of Jamaica's main trading partners. The potential upside to these forecasts is anticipated from higher than expected external demand for Jamaica's goods and services, specifically tourism, due to, among other things, a stronger than expected growth in the economies of Jamaica's main trading partners, a more robust increase in employment levels, which could lead to higher than expected strengthening of domestic demand, particularly associated with the expanded capacities in some sectors, such as business process outsourcing, tourism, digital animation, and other IT-related services. And also better than expected weather outcomes, leading to increased agricultural output and water production. Looking now to our Vision 2030 Jamaica update. Regarding Vision 2030 Jamaica, our National Development Plan, the Planning Institute of Jamaica, PIOJ, will be officially launching the Data for Development online monitoring platform in June 2023. The launch will be hosted in partnership with the United Nations Development Programme, UNDP, which supported the establishment of the platform commencing in 2019 under the project Advancing the SDGs through Vision 2030 Jamaica. The PIOJ led the implementation of the project and provided counterpart funding to establish the platform. The online monitoring platform forms part of the PIOJ's Data for Development initiative, geared towards strengthening national capacity for evidence-based policy and planning through the provision of data on development indicators for analysis and monitoring and evaluation, M&E. This will aid the PIOJ as it builds institutional capacity to support the monitoring and evaluation of results-based national development processes in accordance with its mandate. The platform is geared to promote stakeholder engagement in monitoring national development performance under Vision 2030 Jamaica and the SDGs, and use data, statistics, and information to inform decision-making as they support Jamaica's national development. The platform will also support the identification and documentation of lessons learned to inform national development planning post-2030. Currently, the online monitoring platform includes an integrated JAM data database with social, economic, and environmental data at the national and local levels, a data visualizer that allows users to create and save personalized galleries with data on indicators, a Vision 2030 Jamaica monitoring dashboard that allows stakeholders to track national development performance, a statistical dashboard, well, several statistical dashboards, a metadata hub, and an online resource library. The platform is accompanied by a JAM Data mobile application that is accessible online free of cost in the Google Play and Apple stores. The PIOJ is currently engaged in site testing and improving offerings to meet stakeholder needs. So we're very excited about the launch to come in June. And so in conclusion, the preliminary data presented on economic performance for the January to March 2023 quarter indicate that the economy was estimated to have grown by 2.7%. This performance reflects in part the impact of the retooling and expansion as well as pivoting undertaken by firms as they sought to manage the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 pandemic. The preliminary outturn for the quarter resulted in growth of 4.3% for the fiscal year 2022-23 and represents full recovery in overall output levels from the impact of COVID-19, 1 year before the projected recovery date of fiscal year 2023-24. A key development challenge which Jamaica now faces is how to capitalize on this growth momentum and realize sustainable economic growth rates above the 1% long-term trend that we've had traditionally. Whereas efforts are being made to attract significant investment to spur economic activities in areas such as BPOs, tourism, logistics, digital animation, and other IT-related services, a constraint currently facing Jamaica and its investors is that of an adequate supply of sufficiently skilled labor to capitalize on the opportunities which will arise. Increasingly, the question of whether Jamaica has reached its full employment level with respect to labor has come to the fore. Already, there are at least 2 research activities being undertaken by the Ministries of Tourism and Labor and Social Security, which should provide the relevant data and information to adequately assess Jamaica's labor market situation with respect to the availability of skills in growing areas. The results of these studies will therefore provide relevant information to inform future policy decisions with respect to training needs and options for satisfying any short-term gaps which may arise. For fiscal year 2023-24, growth is projected within the range of 1% to 3%. Efforts to ensure the attainment of this target, as well as to realize upside potential to growth, should include the continuation of efforts at building climate resilience, as climate hazards have traditionally detracted from the attainment of optimum performance within key industries, and also strengthening the efficiency in the rollout of capital projects, ranging from tackling procurement delay issues to improving project management capabilities, also building human resource capacity of the labor force to facilitate the seamless implementation of projects in new and emerging areas, and finally tackling other growth inhibitors such as crime. Despite the challenges that abound, we remain optimistic as we continue to closely monitor and assess these developments. And so in closing, I want to acknowledge and thank the very dedicated and hardworking team here at the PIOJ. I encourage us to continue our collaborative effort and to remain disciplined and responsible as we sustain our efforts to make Jamaica the place of choice to live, work, raise families, and do business. May God continue to bless Jamaica land we love. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Henry. Floor is now open. You put forward your question. You may use the chat feature to raise your hand, after which you will be identified. Once you're identified, please state your name and your organization. You may also type your questions in the chat. Remember, we're also asking those on our YouTube channel who are watching also participate. And there is another question. Jeanette, do you have any questions? Dr. Henry, if you have been very clear in your presentations, I'm not seeing any question here. But I remind those who are listening or watching that if there are any questions outside of this presentation, please feel free to send them to the PIOJ and we will respond. There is a question here. What is the impact of Guyana growing at 45% this year, up from 37% last year? Is Jamaica growing or being hurt by that massive?
All right, thank you for that question. Guyana growing at a faster rate and growth in the region can typically be beneficial for Jamaica. It could increase export opportunities, increase demand for our goods and services, including tourism, meaning more Guyanese citizens, residents can have greater income and from that can afford, different types of travel and vacation, etc. So increased growth in the economies of our regional partners can be very beneficial to us. If there is a diversion where they can offer competing products to us, then in that sense, you can find some fallout. But I think we would have to do an assessment. But broadly, I would say it's always positive as you see growth in the region generally. James?
Yes.
I would support that, DG. Already we have been hearing that there has been some trade arrangements being established between Guyana and Jamaica as a result of their faster growth. So yes, definitely it has been positive thus far.
Any other questions? No? If not, ladies and gentlemen, thanks for joining us. Thanks for participating in our quarterly press briefing. Today's presentation will be uploaded to our website and social media pages of the PIOJ and Vision 2030 Jamaica. Join us again in May, where we will present on the performance of the January to March 2023 period. Have a good day and stay safe.